Tonight, Seth Rollins was supposed to defend his World Heavyweight Championship. He was supposed to have an open challenge on this show. And we got no open challenge because Seth Rollins was attacked by Finn Balor. So we never got that open challenge. Of course, Rollins is defending his World Heavyweight Championship tomorrow night on NXT against Braun Breaker, who made a very brief cameo on the show tonight. A show tonight that got off to a wild start, and then after that wild start, pretty much just settled into a typical average episode of Raw, very dull show for the most part, until that main event. We had a hot main event, Cody Rhodes, Kevin Owens, and Sami Zayn taking on the Judgment Day to close things out in Cleveland tonight. And speaking of Cleveland, we had on this show the return of Logan Paul. For the first time since WrestleMania, for the first time since his loss to Seth Rollins, we had Logan Paul on the show. And as I said on the podcast, I said that there was a reason Logan Paul was being announced for Raw tonight, because we have a pay-per-view coming up, and therefore he would find his way into that Money in the Bank match somehow, because it's the only thing that made sense. Why else would Logan Paul be appearing on Raw now, instead of on Raw coming out of Money in the Bank, heading into SummerSlam? And sure enough, tonight we found out the reason why Logan Paul is back. Logan Paul is back because he is going to be in the men's Money in the Bank ladder match in London next month. That automatically makes him the odds-on favorite to win Money in the Bank this year. But interestingly enough, even though we've been sitting through weeks of qualifying matches, Logan Paul did not have to qualify. All Logan Paul had to do was go to WWE management and simply ask to be inserted into the match. Why is that? Because WWE is filled with star fuckers. That's why. And if you're a celebrity, you're going to get what you want. So they gave him what he wanted, and boom, just like that, he's in Money in the Bank. He was not the only one to return on Raw tonight, though. We also have the return of Tommaso Champa, who we have not seen in a very long time. He was in action tonight on the show. And Trish Stratus wrestled her first singles match on Monday Night Raw in 12 years. She was in a Money in the Bank qualifying match tonight against Raquel Rodriguez. And Trish Stratus is in Money in the Bank. And the reason she is in Money in the Bank is because of all people, Becky Lynch. An unintended assist from Becky Lynch has now put Trish Stratus in her first ever Money in the Bank match. And those were the highlights of what overall, again, outside of the Open and that very hot main event, felt like a pretty average episode of Monday Night Raw. Not a whole lot going on in the middle of this show. This is your Monday Night Raw review for June 19th, 2023. I am the Solomonster. I hope you guys are getting a good start to your week. I have a very busy week ahead of me, which is why this review might be shorter than usual, because my goal tonight is to power through this review as quickly as possible. That is my goal. So we shall see if I'm able to do that, because I have a very early wake up, a very early drive in the morning for a business trip. Probably 5 a.m. I have to get up. So let's see if we can power through this. I'll tell you what you can do for me. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button as well. That's very important. I want to see as many likes as we can muster here on this video tonight. Super chats are open, and of course I will be reading them all and shouting you guys out. So get those super chats on in if you have questions or comments about tonight's show. There was no intro to Raw this week. They went right into it with the World Heavyweight Champion Seth Rollins making his way down to the ring for his what was supposed to be an open challenge, as I said at the beginning of the stream. And he had the entire crowd out there singing his song. Finn Balor attacked him from behind in the ring, and they brawled out to the floor over by the announce desk. Balor gave him a coup de grace off the ring steps. Officials, all kinds of suits poured out from the back. I spied Jason Jordan in there, holding Balor back. Balor broke free. He jumped free. He jumped off the ring steps. Rollins is on the floor, and he jumped off the ring steps, and he buried both feet in Rollins' gut. And again, he got backed off by the suits, broke free for a second time for what ended up being a third running double stop. This one was off the ring steps before they finally cut to a commercial break. This was only 5 minutes into the show. They went to an ad break. I thought it was a nice, chaotic start to the show. It was something a little bit different, right? There was a lot of action. It was a side of Finn Balor we haven't seen, very violent side of Finn Balor we haven't seen in a very long time. I guess the side of Finn Balor that Seth Rollins had said he was hoping to bring out of him, right? This was the Finn Balor that he was hoping to see from 7 years ago. So I enjoyed the open to the show, and after they came back from the break, they showed Rollins was in the back, and he was staggering around, holding his ribs. He gets attacked again from behind by Balor. So at this point now, they cut back to the ringside area, and they're showing us the announcers on television. They have them on screen. We have Kevin Patrick and we have Corey Graves. And as they're speaking, they're interrupted by The Miz, who gets no entrance. It's just he's already in the ring and he's got a microphone in his hand. So the chaotic feel of this show was continuing into the second segment here. Miz said that he was looking forward to accepting the open challenge for the World Heavyweight Championship, in which case, thank fucking God we didn't get one. So he said he was going to issue his own open challenge instead. And then we heard Tommaso Ciampa's theme music. But not just Tommaso Ciampa's theme music, not any old theme music. This was his old theme music from NXT. This was the No One Will Survive theme song for Tommaso Ciampa, which was nice to hear. I have not heard that music in a very long time. So that was very nice. And Ciampa got a nice pop as well when they put his Titantron up and they played his music. He got a nice reaction coming out. His first appearance on television in 9 months. Ciampa was out after having hip surgery. It was a pretty serious injury, but it was a hip operation that he had. So 9 months on the shelf, and Tommaso Ciampa is back on Raw. He immediately knocked down The Miz. He was a house of fire until Miz kicked his leg out from underneath him, hit a DDT for a near fall. That would be the only one that Miz would get. Miz went up top. He went for a double axe handle. As he came off, Ciampa caught him in midair with a perfectly timed knee strike. And Ciampa then finished him off with the fairy tale ending and pinned him. So it is great to have Tommaso Ciampa back on television. It has been too long. The only regret, it happened here in Cleveland. I thought we were still in Chicago from Saturday. It happened here in Cleveland. No Johnny Gargano on this show. Johnny Gargano is the one who I figured was going to accept the open challenge for Seth Rollins. And the fact that he was not on this show at all tells me maybe he is not fully healed yet from whatever is ailing him, whatever injury he's dealing with. I don't know if it's still the shoulder. Because if he's healthy and they just don't have anything for him, how do you not come up with something for this man to do to get him on television in his hometown so he can make an appearance? Especially on the same night that Tommaso Ciampa returns. So that was the only thing that sucked, is that we couldn't get them together to do something on the show, even if after this there was some sort of segment in the back where they sort of passed by each other. I was also very glad to see that they did not just bring Ciampa back as a lackey for The Miz, which is what he was the last time we saw him. This was kind of the end of that here. Put him in the ring with The Miz, let him beat The Miz, and that kind of closes the chapter on that story. So I was glad they put that behind them. And now, whenever Gargano is ready to return, they should be reuniting these two. And if they want to come up with a story first, an explanation of some sort to get the two of them back together, that's fine. But I think that Ciampa and Gargano are going to end up benefiting from being paired off together. They're going to be stronger as sort of the sum of both their parts than they would be individually. More so, Gargano would benefit, I think, more so than Ciampa would. But, you know, DIY was such a great team in NXT. It would be a shame if we didn't at least have them on the main roster getting a run and eventually challenging for those tag team titles. And then eventually they can go their separate ways and get singles runs out of it. So I would like to see the two of them paired off sooner rather than later. But very good to see Tommaso Ciampa back on TV. The Judgment Day. They were out on stage next for a promo. They all came out with microphones. What did they do? They cut to a commercial break. Now, I figure when they came back from commercial, they would all be in the ring, right? So they took their time getting to the ring. They come back from commercial, they're still standing there on stage. So we're led to believe that this entire time, the whole 4.5 minute break here, they were just standing there. And Balor was pacing back and forth. This is what happens. If you've ever been to one of these Monday Night Raw shows, the arena goes dark, they show a bunch of commercials and video packages up on the screen, and the wrestlers on stage or in the ring, they just stand there like fucking idiots. That's what happens. You're not missing anything special. Sometimes they'll cut a promo for the live crowd, but generally speaking, they just stand there like morons. So they were standing there like idiots the entire time. They come back from commercial. Balor says that Rollins' Open Challenge has been canceled because he is the only one that is going to beat Seth to become the World Heavyweight Champion. Balor said the fans could sing his theme song at his funeral, and the crowd began singing, so Rhea Ripley told everybody in the building to shut up. Ripley said that Balor would bring the world title to the Judgment Day. She already had the women's division on lockdown. Dominic would put down Cody Rhodes. Priest would, of course, win Money in the Bank. Priest said that he would win Money in the Bank as well. He basically reiterated what she just said. And then he warned Cody to keep Dom's name out of his mouth or else. Dominic put the mic to his face, immediately booed by this crowd. He then challenged Cody to a 6-man tag team match tonight if he could find 2 partners. We then had a video retelling of the Bloodline story from SmackDown on Friday night. That great angle with the Usos and Roman Reigns that closed the show, which was a fantastic segment. I didn't do a live SmackDown review on Friday because I had the Hog Show, but I did talk about it on episode 813 yesterday. Very much enjoyed that segment, even though I saw the direction they were going in as far as the tag team match for Money in the Bank, which is now official. They're billing it a Bloodline Civil War. It's going to be Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa against against the Usos. I feel like Kevin Owens on this show when Byron Saxton brought up the Bloodline. He said, "Really? You're still asking me about the fucking Bloodline?" Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, man, these two just can't quit the Bloodline. Roman and Solo against the Usos and Money in the Bank is going to be the match. So we got the recap of that here. Now, in the back, as I just mentioned, Byron Saxton was interviewing Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, speak of the devil. And he asked them about the Bloodline. Owens was annoyed. He said, "Why are you asking us about the Bloodline again? I concur. Leave these 2 men alone." At least Kevin Owens. I know Sami Zayn is still hanging around Jey Uso. But Kevin Owens is done. He's finished. They beat the Bloodline at Night of Champions. That's it. He wants to put a period at the end of that sentence and move on with his life. First it was Elias and Ezekiel. Now he's got to deal with this Bloodline shit for the rest of his career. It's no wonder this guy is going mad every single week. So Zayn said, look, it was a fair question. Owens said he didn't care. He was getting very angry, and Owens told him to calm down. This is his new gimmick now, where Kevin Owens is, at the drop of a hat, he gets very upset. He gets very animated. So Zayn said he didn't want to say what he was thinking in front of everybody, and Owens said, no, go ahead. It's just the 2 of us and Byron here. There's nobody else around. So Zayn called Owens a rageaholic. He said that he was going to challenge KO to keep it together, and he said that if Owens didn't throw another tantrum for the rest of the night, that he would never bring it up again. And Owens asked him what would happen then, and Sami said, I'll shut up. And Owens said, forever? And Owens then agreed to the challenge. This was comedy. They aired mock TikTok videos of Chelsea Green acting like a Karen in various situations. So in one of the videos, they showed her, she was in her car. I think she was stopped at a light. And I guess the person behind her in the car is filming this. Again, it's made to look like a TikTok video that went viral. And you see Chelsea get out of her car and then come up to the driver's side window of the person behind her and just start going off on this person. So they aired that as a lead-in to Chelsea Green and Sonya Deville taking on Katana Chance and Caden Carter. The newest addition, I was going to say a 0 Point just activated Brie mode. The $25 super chat officially activated. Thank you, 0 Point. Thank you very much. I believe 0.216 is his full username. I believe that was the television rating that Impact Wrestling got last week. Thank you, 0.216. So Carter and Chance, they won very quickly with their after-party finish on Sonya Deville. It's 2 minutes long. I mean, again, it's not long enough to be anything special. It was a win for Chance and Carter. I mean, good for them, but you can't do much in a 2-minute match. There's only so much that you can do. I mean, how do you even grade a match like that? You can't. You can't. So it was a win for the new ladies on the roster. So then they tried something new. And I appreciate it when they try something new, even if it doesn't work, and they never do it again, because at least they're trying something new. In this case, it was Kathy Kelly standing at the head of the aisleway. So she wasn't really on stage, but she was at the head of the aisleway by the stage, but with her back to the crowd, so we could see all of the fans standing behind her. As she introduced the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes. And Cody came out, of course. Cody was dressed in his suit. He had his titanium cast over his suit, which just looks bizarre. She asked him about the Judgment Day's challenge for a 6-man tag match tonight. Cody said that Rhea was dominating. I thought he said dominatrix at first. Rhea was dominating. I'm sure there's a lot of fans who wish that. Priest was only a few steps on a ladder away from making history. Balor could be the next World Heavyweight Champion. And then there's Dom. He said finding 2 partners would not be a problem. He accepted the challenge. That was it. This didn't even go a full 3 minutes. He went right to the point. He answered the question. They played his music, and he was done. All promos should be that quick. After this, they fed Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander to the Wolves. They put them in the ring with Indus Sher in a very quick loss. There were noticeable chemistry issues between these two teams. This was not very good. As quick as it was, this was not very good. And how often do you hear me say that Cedric Alexander or Shelton Benjamin are not very good? So I don't want to put all the blame on them. But yeah, I'm watching this and I'm just thinking, I was really starting to enjoy the character work with Sanga in NXT before they plucked him away from what he was doing and they put him back into this team with Veer. And so now, whereas before he was starting to show more of his personality and he was speaking more, they were giving him more, promo time. Now he doesn't speak and he just comes out there and he's the typical brute and there's no real personality. There's nothing there. So they keep racking up wins, which is good for them. But again, there's nothing there. There's nothing to get behind. There's nothing to really say other than the fact that they come out there, beat people up, and you would hope they're building them up for an eventual tag team championship match. But it would also be nice to start hearing from them. Instead of just Jinder Mahal, maybe let them speak a little bit. So far, that's not the case. Owens and Zayn, they were in the back. They were walking. All of a sudden, a random guy bumps into them, spills water on Kevin Owens' t-shirt. And Sammy said, "Uh-oh, you hate it when you get wet." So he was testing him. He was testing him to make sure that he wouldn't fly off the handle. And Owens, he curbed his rage and he said, "It's okay. It's all right. It's not a problem." So then they bumped into Matt Riddle, and Sammy encouraged Riddle to tell Kevin everything that he's been up to this summer so far. Of course, I believe it's tomorrow, the first day of summer, right? I don't even think it's summer yet. I believe tomorrow is officially the first day of summer. So then Riddle, of course, is more than happy to tell Owens what he's been up to. He's been watching movies, and he asked Owens if he's ever seen Honey, I Shrunk the Kids and Little Giants. Owens was about to freak out on him, and he settled down, and he said, "Oh, those are great movies." So then at the top of the 9 o'clock hour, it was time for the return of Logan Paul. Logan Paul was sitting atop a giant ladder in the middle of the ring. The arena was dark, but they shined a light on him, and they shined a light on the briefcases that were right above his head. he played to the crowd. You could tell he was being very sarcastic, but he was playing to the crowd and saying, "Oh, it's great to be back here in Ohio." He said the best people in the world come from Cleveland, and he listed LeBron James, who got a bit of a frosty reaction from the crowd. Jerry Lawler, who got, an respectful reaction. Shout out to Jerry Lawler, who apparently is not convalescing very well. He's not convalescing as quickly as he would like from his recent stroke. And then he named himself as one of the great people from Cleveland. He said that he looks back on the moments that made him great, and he determined that they all started once he left Cleveland. That's when all the positive things started to happen for him. He said that Cleveland just can't stop losing. He pointed to his brother's recent boxing loss, his own loss to Seth Rollins at WrestleMania, and even The Miz losing earlier tonight in the opening match. He said he is single-handedly going to put respect back on this city's name. So he called the executives, he said. He called the WWE executives. He picked up the phone and he called Nick Khan. Either Nick Khan or Vincenzo. I'm sure he's got him on speed dial. Called the executives. He got a special invitation to wrestle in this year's Money in the Bank ladder match. In London, he'll be there. He said he's going to win that contract and cash in to win the championship whenever he wants. And he's going to bring the title back to Cleveland. So there it is. Logan in the Bank has been cashed in. Charlotte Flair would be very proud of Logan Paul for the stunt he pulled on this show here tonight. He would be just, she has now made Logan Paul her favorite wrestler. She is so impressed by what Logan Paul was able to do tonight. She gave him a little golf clap sitting at home, watching with Andrade. There it is. Logan in the Bank did not even have to qualify for the match. We've been sitting and watching qualifying matches every single week. We had a fucking qualifying match tonight on the women's side. Everybody has to qualify except Logan Paul. Logan Paul asks, "Hey, I want to be in the match." Boom, he gets invited. He's in Money in the Bank. It's just that simple. Now, Ricochet, one of the morons who had to qualify for this fucking thing, he interrupts Logan Paul. He came out to congratulate him, and he says, "Look, I don't care how you got into the match. It doesn't change the fact that Ricochet is walking out of London as Mr. Money in the Bank." Yeah, sure. So that, actually, when he said that, that got a pretty tepid reaction from the crowd. So then he was interrupted by Shinsuke Nakamura, who said very little before he was interrupted by LA Knight. And what else is new? LA Knight came out and he got a positive reaction. He got cheers from the crowd. What a fucking shock. He got the best reaction out of anybody in this entire segment. He said he sees Ricochet and Nakamura standing there, two guys as useless as basketball cleats. And then he sees Logan Paul, a guy who makes videos for 14-year-old girls and wants to call himself a megastar. He said he brought him a gift and he pulled a map out of his pocket. He said it's a map. If you follow it, it'll have the exact directions of where you can stick all those bottles of Prime. Because that case, that Money in the Bank briefcase, he says, has his name on it. And the crowd chanted his name, L.A. Knight. That's right. That's right. The people of Cleveland have good taste. The people in Cleveland know a megastar when they see one. They might not have too many playing on their sports teams, but they know a megastar when they see one. So then Santos Escobar, who was not a megastar, Santos Escobar interrupts. He calls all of this stuff empty promises and lies. He said, "In Money in the Bank, the one who represents La Raza will win Money in the Bank. The one who represents the LWO will win the Money in the Bank match." So then Butch's music hits, and he headed to the ring. He did not have a microphone, unlike the other geeks in this match. He had no microphone in his hand. He just came down to the ring. He went right after Logan Paul, and we got ourselves a brawl with all 7 men in the Money in the Bank match. Logan ended up in the ring all by himself. He ended up doing a flip dive to the floor, out onto all the other bodies outside. Then he got back into the ring. He scaled the ladder, and he posed with the Money in the Bank briefcase directly above his head. I fear for LA Knight. I fear for LA Knight. Now that Logan Paul has been added to the Money in the Bank match, he's automatically the odds-on favorite to win the match. Him being in there makes him the number one pick to walk out with that briefcase. What it also does, though, it adds some star power to a match that severely lacks star power. Severely lacks star power. Actually, the only Money in the Bank entrant I believe that was missing from this match, I believe, was Damian Priest. I believe all the other ones were out there. But no real big names in this match. And now Logan Paul being added, at least it gives the match a little bit of, I guess, cachet as far as star power is concerned. And after their big spot at the Royal Rumble this year, we'll see what Logan Paul and Ricochet are going to cook up for this match. I'm sure they'll plan out some crazy spot during the match. But this changes nothing. Absolutely nothing. LA Knight should still walk out with that Money in the Bank briefcase. Every single week, every single city, it doesn't matter where they are, it doesn't matter what building they're in. He is the one consistently, you look at all these men in this match, he's the one who consistently goes out there and gets a positive response from this crowd. Even though he's not a babyface, he goes out there and gets a positive response. His music hits, the people react. He says something on the mic, he gets off a one-liner, the people react. He gets the crowd to say his name, they chant right along with him. They've had him on the main roster now, toiling, doing nothing for months and months and months. And it goes back to the beginning of the year when he was feuding with Bray Wyatt, and he went into that Mountain Dew pitch black match, and he lost. And somehow he came out of that okay. And you can't say that about very many people coming out of a Bray Wyatt feud. He came out unscathed. He came out, he was actually more over than he was even prior to that. And now here we are in June, heading into July. At what point does Triple H look at this and go, hey, you know what? We ought to do something with this guy. It's not enough to just put him on television every single week. And he's not even on television every week, but you got to do something with this guy. You got to take advantage of what you have in front of him. I don't want him to take Mark Henry's advice. Mark Henry was on Busted Open Radio last week and said, man, you know, this LA Knight guy, if management isn't going to listen to him, he's got to speak up for himself. If he's not happy, let's say, with what they're doing with him. And, you know, if he does that and they're not willing to do anything with him, then he should be prepared to walk away when his contract expires and leave WWE. I don't want to see him leave WWE. I want to see WWE take advantage of what they have with this guy. There's no reason that when he's on television, he shouldn't have a mic in his hand every single week. LA Knight should win Money in the Bank. Is he going to? I'm less confident now about that, but he should win Money in the Bank. So after this, we had Matt Riddle. Let's get out of here. Get out of here. So we had Matt Riddle, one-on-one with Ludwig Kaiser of Imperium. He had Gunther in his corner. I thought this was fine. This was a fine professional wrestling match here. Kaiser tried a back elbow off the middle turnbuckle. Riddle, though, countered into a German suplex, which looked great. Riddle followed with a Bro Derek for the win. Gunther tried a cheap shot after the match. Riddle, though, ducked it. He fought back. They got the better of him, though. Gunther repeatedly stomped on Riddle's ankle while Kaiser held him down. So this was revenge for what Riddle did to Giovanni Vinci a couple of weeks ago. We haven't seen Vinci since. He put him in that ankle lock. So this was Gunther returning the favor for what he did to Vinci. Still no mention yet of an Intercontinental title match for Money in the Bank. Clearly they have to be setting up for Gunther and Matt Riddle. And I thought we would get the announcement tonight, later in the show, but it never happened. We still have a couple of weeks left, until just under 2 weeks, I believe, until the pay-per-view. So if not by the end of this week, then certainly by next Monday, I would expect that we're going to get that announcement that we will have. And let me tell you, you know, Gunther and Riddle for the Intercontinental Championship is going to be a hell of a match. It's not going to change anything because they're not taking that title off of Gunther at least for another 2 months, probably a lot longer than that. But that should be a very good match in London, assuming they make it official. Now, coming back after this, there were a pair of trainers in the back shown helping Riddle, who winced when he put weight on his bad ankle. Elsewhere, Owens and Zayn were talking when Gunther and Kaiser interrupted them, and Zayn and Owens, who of course have been interrupted constantly by Imperium now for weeks in the back. They said the same thing that happened to Riddle would happen to them if they're not careful. And Owens got all riled up. He said Kaiser is long-winded. He needs to get to the point. Zayn showed Owens something on his phone, like he got a text message or something, and he said, look, we got something we got to go take care of. After this, we had the Alpha Academy. They made their entrance. Highlights aired earlier today of Chad Gable holding a coaching session for Maxine Dupree. He was teaching her some more moves. So it was Chad Gable and Otis taking on the Viking Raiders, who had Valhalla in their corner. Gable hit a moonsault onto both Vikings on the floor, and then he headed up to the top rope. Big top rope headbutt connected on Eric for a near fall. Valhalla climbed up onto the apron and was barking at Chad Gable. Maxine pulled Valhalla back to the floor and then suplexed her one spot that she had here in this match. In the ring, though, Eric hit a distracted Gable with a brutal knee to the back, and he pinned him. So the Vikings actually won a match on the show. The Viking Raiders have not won a match since March. So it has been 3 months, and this was their first victory. Is it going to lead to something? I'm sure it'll lead to something more with the Alpha Academy. Is it going to lead to anything more than that? No. No, it will not. Because they are no longer the big badasses like when Triple H, he kind of tried to reboot them, and they were booking them pretty strong there for a while. And now they've just kind of settled back into, mid-card storylines. Now Indus Sher is the new play toy that they have. The big new heel team, the monster team that they're pushing. So no, they're not going to do anything significant with the Viking Raiders, but we have a story here for the Alpha Academy that will continue. And Chad Gable, it's not like an LA Knight situation, but Chad Gable continues to get good reactions each week from the crowd. The crowd likes Chad Gable. At some point, there should be a run for Chad Gable towards the Intercontinental Championship. There's a story in there. There's an underdog story in there with Gable going after the Intercontinental title. And maybe it's against Gunther, right? Probably won't end well for him if it's against Gunther, but there's definitely a story in there for Gable. I think he would absolutely get over. You just have to pull the trigger. It's just a matter of when. It's all about timing. Now, Rhea Ripley was supposed to have a singles match here on this show. Supposed to have a singles match against Natalya. And you ask the question, why? Why? She destroyed Natalya at Night of Champions, right? She embarrassed her. So tonight, they had a rematch. It was not for the championship, but it was a rematch from Night of Champions. Natty was at the gorilla position before the match when Kathy Kelly approached her and asked her about how her strategy might be different after the way that Rhea had dominated her at the last pay-per-view. Natty said that match rocked her to her very core. She said that she needed to prove to Ripley that she belongs while also proving it to herself. How very heartwarming. This is the Natalya redemption story. Let's see how the Natalya redemption story turned out, shall we? Natty got into the ring. She got attacked from behind by Ripley before the bell. Before the match even started, she got attacked. Ripley dominated her at ringside, threw her back into the ring. The referee called for some help instead of calling for the bell to start the match. And then Ripley hit her riptide finish, and then a bunch of referees and producers ran in, so the match never happened. So there you go. Not much redemption for Natty on this show tonight. But it makes me think they're going to run this back again at Money in the Bank, aren't they? We're going to get another match between Rhea Ripley and Natalya. That's what this felt like to me. Why? Why? Hopefully I'm wrong. Why couldn't I'm looking at this roster, and I said the other day, it's sad that they don't have anybody else really ready for Rhea Ripley. There's really no other viable contenders right now for the championship. Becky Lynch is occupied with Trish Stratus and Zoe Stark. So there's nobody else to step up and believably challenge Rhea for the championship. Would it have been so hard to take somebody else on that women's undercard who is not being utilized right now? And there are a lot of different women who are not being utilized right now. But you have a pay-per-view like Money in the Bank coming up. Where's Piper Niven? As far as I know, she's not hurt. Not anymore. You could heat up somebody like Piper Niven for a few weeks or for a month heading into Money in the Bank and then send her to London where she would be over in Europe, she would be over. And it might just be a one and done, but build up somebody like Piper Niven to go in there and challenge, Rhea Ripley for the championship. They don't have anybody. At this rate, it's going to be a third match with Natalya. Who cares? Now, Raquel Rodriguez was being interviewed at the gorilla position backstage. And she said that it was an honor to step into the ring tonight because she was going to be wrestling Trish Stratus in a qualifying match later on in the show. She said it would be an honor to be in the ring with a legend like Trish. But she took issue with the manner in which Rhea just treated Natty. And as she's saying this, Rhea comes back through the curtain and she walks right up to Raquel. She gets up in her face. And Raquel told Rhea that she better hope she doesn't beat Trish tonight because Rhea is not ready for her. And the two of them shared a very tense stare down before Raquel headed out to the ring. Raquel Rodriguez is another one. Definitely can be built up, and obviously they tease that here. Definitely can be built up, though, for a championship match with Rhea Ripley. Money in the Bank, to me, is too soon. That's a match, though, that they could probably do at SummerSlam. They have enough time to really build that up for a SummerSlam match. These two have history together. These two were best friends, and then they became mortal enemies in NXT. They had a great last woman standing match together. I don't remember if it was Raquel's last match or Rhea's. I think it might have been Rhea's last match in NXT, because I think Raquel won. Was a last woman standing match. So there's a history between these two, a legitimate friendship that they have. But even on screen, they have history together. So you could build a storyline around that, coupled with the fact that Rhea thinks that she could just go around bullying anybody she wants to. You're not going to bully me. When they went nose to nose here, Raquel was taller. She was bigger than Rhea, right? There aren't too many people on that roster when they get nose to nose, face to face that are bigger than Rhea Ripley. So yeah, you can build something for SummerSlam. But again, I don't know why you couldn't take a Piper Niven or somebody like that and try to make something out of them going into Money in the Bank, and to give Rhea someone that she could be competitive with on that pay-per-view. Right now she has no match. So either she won't have a match and she'll just be in Dominic's corner, or like I said, she'll end up wrestling Natty for a third time. And who gives a shit? Cody Rhodes was shown, he was warming up in the back, doing exercises with his supposedly broken arm when he was approached by Akira Tozawa. Tozawa said that if Cody was still looking for a partner tonight, he was his man. And Cody told him, well, that's good to know. I'll think about it. And he shook the man's hand and off he went. Owens and Zayn showed up. Zayn said, hey, I got your text. So there you go. There was a text message. He said they had Cody's back anytime he wanted their help. Rhodes said that Tozawa had already offered to be his partner. Owens flipped out because, again, he's holding his temper in all night. He really wanted to punch somebody in the face. Cody said, wait, I didn't accept him. I didn't say that he could be my partner. He said that he would be thrilled to have the tag team champions as his partners tonight. And Owens was very happy, and he said, let's go punch people. It's my mantra every day. Let's go punch people. And off they went. Trish Stratus, one-on-one with Raquel Rodriguez in a Money in the Bank qualifying match. This was Trish's first singles match on Raw in 12 years. And to put that in perspective, from the time that Bret Hart got screwed in Montreal to the time that he returned to Monday Night Raw was 12 years. It's the same length of time that had gone by. Obviously, that was a much bigger deal than this. But just to put some perspective on it. I thought this was good until the finish. And I didn't really mind the way they did the finish either. It was a cheap finish. But I didn't really mind it because it made sense, I think, for the character. Raquel blasted Trish with just a wicked clothesline. I mean, she fucking blasted her with this clothesline. And then she hit a suplex, and that sent Trish rolling out to the floor. Raquel went out after her. She threw Trish back into the ring. Trish now has the referee. She takes the referee. He's distracted. And Zoe Stark is outside in Trish's corner, and so Zoe sweeps the leg out from underneath Raquel on the apron. And that got Trish a near fall back in the ring. Becky Lynch runs out at this point. She attacks Zoe Stark. Trish left the ring to go after Becky, and Becky threw Trish into the barricade. And the referee saw this, and the referee called for the bell. That is the correct call to make. He disqualified Raquel Rodriguez, and he awarded the victory to Trish Stratus, which means that Trish has officially qualified now, unlike Logan Paul, for Money in the Bank. Becky had a shocked look on her face like she couldn't believe it. After the match, Becky tried to explain herself to Raquel, who was rightfully pissed, and was telling Becky that she had her beat. Again, a cheap finish, but Trish being the heel, it made sense for the character that she's portraying right now on television. So now all three women are in Money in the Bank. Becky Lynch, Trish Stratus, and Zoe Stark. All three have qualified for the match, and none of them are going to win, because the winner of the Money in the Bank match is going to be Io Sky. So they can fight amongst each other all they want to, but Io Sky is going to win the briefcase. Raquel, though, she should have beaten the crap out of Becky for what she did here. She completely fucked her over, and she didn't do that. But, now we have 7 men in the Money in the Bank match on the men's side, so Raquel may yet find a way into the women's match, because if they have 7 men in the men's match, I find it hard to believe they won't add a 7th woman for the women's match. Whether they just add her back because she got fucked over here, or there's one of those last chance qualifiers with all the losers, and then whoever wins gets into the match. I wouldn't count Raquel out just yet, as far as the Money in the Bank match. Went backstage with Kathy Kelly, who had a very special guest with her. It was the former NXT champion, Braun Breaker. And he said that, he was told that it's unclear whether or not Seth Rollins is going to be medically cleared for their match tomorrow night on NXT. Breaker said that Seth surely would not use what happened tonight as an excuse to get out of defending his World Heavyweight Championship against him, when he's talked so much of a big game about being such a workhorse. What Balor did was nothing compared to what he would do, because he would hurt Seth freaking Rollins real freaking bad. He told us to get used to seeing his face on Raw, because he planned on becoming the new World Heavyweight Champion. Very good promo. I like this promo a lot. He's adapted very well in the heel role, and seems to come naturally to him. And I don't think he's wrong either. We should start seeing him soon on the main roster. He's not going to win, but we should start seeing him soon on Raw or SmackDown. And then you just gradually start feeding him wins until he either wins the Intercontinental title if he's on Raw, or the United States Championship if he's on SmackDown. Because I see more upside in him than I do even Austin Theory. And Theory's been walking around with that U.S. title now for months. He's done shit for the belt, and the belt has done shit for him. Guy beat fucking John Cena at WrestleMania. It feels like a total non-factor on the show right now. But Braun Breaker, he's got all the tools to be a big star. But take your time with him. Don't just rocket him to the top. He should hold one of those mid-card titles first. Make it his own. And as long as they take their time with him, and he can stay healthy, the sky's the limit. He'll be a World Heavyweight Champion for them within 3 years. 3 or 4 years, max. Easily. From there, Byron Saxton caught up with Becky Lynch, and she was making it seem like the odds are against her in this Money in the Bank match, because Trish is in there, and Zoe, and Bayley, and Io, who she's had issues with before. She said that she would either come out victorious, or she would take Trish and Zoe down with her. No mention of how she just screwed over Raquel in Raquel's match. She was only concerned that she might have screwed herself over, because she's very selfish. The Becky Lynch character is very selfish and doesn't give a shit about anybody else, which screams heel, but she's a babyface. We had Shinsuke Nakamura one-on-one with Bronson Reed. Ricochet showed up during the match. He sat in on commentary. Late in the match, Reed tried to shove Nakamura into Ricochet. Ricochet, though, popped up, and Nakamura kind of landed. He was seated in the announce chair outside. Ricochet then kicked the back of the chair. He kind of used the barricade that he was on. He kicked the chair forward that had Nakamura in the chair and sent Nakamura into Reed. Shinsuke stared down Ricochet, so Bronson attacked Nakamura and rolled him back into the ring. Ricochet turned his back on Reed, and Reed shoved him into the steel steps. Ricochet then jumped up onto the apron. Just as Nakamura was setting up for the Kinshasa, Reed moved, though. Nakamura knocked Ricochet off the apron instead. Reed followed with a back suplex and the big tsunami splash for the win. And this crowd in Cleveland, they noticeably reacted to the tsunami splash. The tsunami is getting over. Tsunami gets a big reaction when they see him climb into that top rope. And I actually like the way he does it too, because he doesn't climb to the top and take his time and stand there. He climbs up and just immediately he doesn't even throw himself. He just he falls. And then they show that slow motion replay, and he's a big dude, and he just comes with all of his weight crashing down on the other guy. And the crowd reacts to it. He reacts to it in a very big way. So hopefully that will continue. But I am amused by the fact that Reed, he's beaten Nakamura now. He's beaten Ricochet. He's beaten these guys left and right. And of the three men here, he's the one who has not qualified for the Money in the Bank match. So Shinsuke Nakamura is in, Ricochet is in, Bronson Reed is not. So at least Triple H is keeping him strong, and he's winning. But, again, he's feuding with two men who were in the ladder match, and he's the odd man out. He won the match, and he's not even in Money in the Bank. We then were shown a selfie video from the World Heavyweight Champion. Seth Rollins he's okay. He's all right. He's going to live, everybody. He's going to live to fight another day. It was a selfie video from a local medical facility. He said they made him go get x-rays on his ribs. He said he didn't really give a damn what the doctors said. He would be there at NXT tomorrow night to defend his World Heavyweight title against Braun Breaker. Rollins said that the Finn Balor we saw tonight, that's the guy that beat me 7 years ago. He said, welcome back. And he said, Money in the Bank can't get here soon enough. Main event was Cody Rhodes, Kevin Owens, and Sami Zayn taking on the Judgment Day, Finn Balor, Damian Priest, and Dominic Mysterio. Rhodes wanted Dominic, who tagged into a chorus of boos. He immediately tagged out, though, to Balor. Dominic tagged back in when they had Rhodes in the corner, and he smacked him in the back, and then Dom quickly escaped and tagged in Priest. And the crowd chanted, Dom's a pussy. Was wondering why USA Network was suddenly censoring the audio every 5 seconds. They were chanting, Dom's a pussy. Zayn was isolated in the heel corner coming out of the final ad break, and a cameraman climbed up onto the ring apron in the corner where the babyfaces were reaching for the tag. And they had a point of view shot here from the cameraman showing Zayn reaching out to his partners for a tag before Dominic ran over, before he could make the tag, and he knocked Cody off the apron. I thought that was a very cool shot. It's like the drone stuff that they did for the most recent pay-per-views, and they did it in Puerto Rico for Backlash. That's cool. And I'd like to see them do more of that for the pay-per-views, not for the weekly television. This camera shot was also very cool. So hopefully they utilize that more often. Owens took a hot, and I do mean hot tag here. This crowd was rabid for Kevin Owens coming into this match. He took a hot tag. He put the boots to Dominic, hit him with a cannonball in the corner. Owens went for a pop-up powerbomb. Balor made a blind tag, though, and he put Owens down with a sling blade. Cody got back up on the apron. He was begging for the tag. Owens made the tag. He then took it to Priest and took care of him. Cody followed up with a disaster kick to Priest for a near fall. So then he ran the ropes. He was setting up for something, maybe a Cody cutter. And then he stopped himself and landed back on his feet because Rhea Ripley had jumped up on the apron. Dominic chokeslammed Cody, had him beat, but Zayn returned to break up the pin. So Dom roughed up Sammy for a little bit. Sammy, though, tossed him out over the top rope. And Dominic ended up falling into the arms. He fell off the apron. He fell into the arms of Rhea Ripley. And Rhea Ripley put him down. She then climbed back up onto the apron. And Rhea begins barking at Sami Zayn, who's looking to the crowd. What should I do? So he says, whatever. And he runs the ropes. He goes for a dive. Rhea ducks. And he dives over Rhea, out of the ring, and onto Dominic with a flip dive. Cody hit the Cody Cutter on Priest in the ring for a great near fall. Dominic set up for a 619 on Cody a short time later, but Zayn cut him off and then caught Dom with the haluva kick. Owens then caught Dom with a stunner, and Cody hit the crossroads on Priest, not Dominic, and he pinned Damian Priest to win the match for the babyfaces. That was a fun main event. It was a fun main event with a hot crowd that was hotter for this than anything else on the entire show all night long. And now, of course, storyline, we wait and see if Priest losing this match here is going to stir up some bad feelings between him and Finn Balor. After there was a segment earlier on the show where Balor said everything was cool now with him and Damian. It might not be so cool now that he lost the match for the Judgment Day. And that was your show. You know, this would have made a pretty good 2-hour episode of Raw. But I would think that you could probably say that about a lot of Raw episodes. If it was 2 hours, it would be a much better show. But it's not 2 hours. So they started out hot in the opening minutes. They had a fun main event. And pretty much most of the stuff in between was just In the words of MJF, it was mid. It was mid. It very uninspired. It did move things forward in certain storylines. I'm not saying it didn't, but it was a very mid episode of Monday Night Raw. Here's the Twitter poll. 57% thumbs up, 43% thumbs down. That is the score for Raw. You can vote in the poll at Solomonster on Twitter. Let me know what you thought of the show tonight. Love hearing from you guys as far as these shows are concerned. See if we are in sync on how we feel about this show. All right, let's check out your super chats. And again, I'm wrapping things up a little earlier than usual tonight because I have an early wake up. So that's why I'm sort of powering through. But to be honest with you, this was just not a very exciting show. So I pretty much said what I wanted to say. There really isn't much more than that to say. King Bling Blah says, better heel currently, MJF or Dominic Mysterio? MJF is the better heel. But Dominic's reactions are just... they're a lot of fun. You know, it's the type of heat that you would kill for if you're a heel in wrestling. But MJF is the better heel than Dominic. WWE Wrestling and Gaming, dropping a $12 super chat. Says, you pitched a potential bright side of the ring show. Well, that was part of the mailbag on the podcast yesterday. Talking about how, dark side of the ring obviously covers some of the darker topics, the darker underbelly of pro wrestling. And so, what if there was a bright side of the ring? What are some of the positive stories that you would cover on a show like that? So I talked about that in the mailbag, but he says, it got him thinking, what are your thoughts on John Cena outside the ring? He could be a good topic. Well, I mean, he was one of the names I mentioned in that segment. Just for his Make-A-Wish stuff and charitable stuff alone, you could do a bright side of the ring episode on John Cena on everything he does outside the ring. I think a lot of what he does is fantastic. I think the work he does, especially with Make-A-Wish, is absolutely just phenomenal, right? Nobody's granted more wishes in the history of that organization than John Cena. Think of how many celebrities work with Make-A-Wish. It's pretty impressive. Bobby's World says, hey Solo, did you see that Tyler Fullington, Sandman's son, tweeted Raven Happy Father's Day? I was highly amused. I did not see that. And I am highly amused by you telling me about that. That's very cool. How old would his son even be? How old is Tyler Fullington? Probably in his late 20s maybe? I don't even know how old he would be now. MH Nova. Start, bench, cut, trade from these. From these Shawn Undertaker matches, is what he's saying. Hell in a Cell, Royal Rumble 98, WrestleMania 24. WrestleMania 24. I think you mean WrestleMania 25 and 26. It says in 97, within 1 month, Shawn lost his manager, his smile, and his belt. Yeah, well, my heart bleeds for him. Well, I'm benching the Royal Rumble match. I was never really a fan of that casket match at the Rumble. That should have been Shawn and Owen for the belt on that show anyway. There was no need for a third match. They just wanted to do the whole angle at the end where Kane set the casket on fire, so they got what they wanted. I'm cutting the Royal Rumble match. I'm starting the Hell in a Cell match. And as far as the WrestleMania matches, I mean, you didn't put the Ground Zero match on there, but we'll leave that out. As far as the WrestleMania matches go, you know, I would love to start that one, but the Hell in a Cell in 97 is just so perfect that I've got to go with that one. If I had to bench one of the WrestleMania matches, it would be 26, because 25 is the better match. Christopher Smith, I liked hearing No One Will Survive again, and Ciampa looked great. Happy to see him back. I agree. Looked like he's been training like a mofo. Dennis Diaz, thank you for the super chat. Christopher Smith again, I still prefer aggressive Balor over happy, smiling, babyface Finn. I do too. I think it's the better role for him, you know, to be a little more aggressive and show a harder edge. Rodimus Prime, love the wild start to the show. That said, if LA Knight does not win Money in the Bank, WWE is as dumb as expected. I don't know. I'm worried. I'm worried after tonight. Winston Slip, Raw is meh. What's your favorite kind of soup? Well, of course, it would be chicken noodle soup. Chicken soup is the best soup. 0.216 with the $25 Brie mode. Let me talk to you. Nobody better say Raw was a bore. Nah. Not with the megastar LA Knight here. Because he is going to climb that ladder and grab that briefcase with everybody saying LA Knight. Or I riot. See, 0 point, he has good taste. He's an LA Knight fan. Hoofman says, because we all know how great WWE does comedy. Well, WWE is very hit or miss with their comedy. But the Owens stuff tonight was amusing, so didn't bother me. Tokes Kazim, if Logan Paul takes that briefcase, I will shit on my peacock. Hey, brother, you do whatever you want to do in the privacy of your own home, man. Just leave me out of it. The Mount Vernon Kid, Christopher Bennett, Raquel performing the Chyna/Marlena spot was pure magic. Yeah, she was ragdolling Trish in the ring at the beginning of their match. Also, I love Ricochet, but tonight he was just a petty child. Have a safe trip. Yeah, I mean, I don't even know what is his... What's his persona? What's his character? Is he just like a shit stirrer? I mean, what's the deal with Ricochet? What is the deal with Ricochet? Christopher Smith, heel Braun Breaker feels so natural. He's knocked it out of the park so far, man. It's the right role for him. He's doing great. Near says his wife is doing better. She'll be out very soon. I'm very happy to hear that. Thank you for sharing the good news. And Silver Tower. Oh boy, look who it is, everybody. It's our boy. It is Silver Tower.
Too sweet to be sour. It's Silver Tower.
All those gifted memberships, man. It got him his own personal soundbite here. Silver Tower, I'm convinced that LA Knight is bulletproof to bad booking. It is amazing. Nobody is bulletproof to bad booking. So let's not get carried away here. I don't want you to jinx it. But somehow, even though they've given him absolutely nothing to do, I mean, they have given this guy nothing, he's still over. You would hope, you would think that sends a message to Triple H. Hopefully he's paying attention. I guess we'll find out at Money in the Bank whether or not that is the case. So, again, I want to thank you guys for hanging out with me here on a Monday night, a slow night. I think there were a lot of people, frankly, who were bored by this fucking show. It's just, it felt the vibe all night, even on social media. It was just like, like I said, a very mid episode of Raw. But we are going to do, I didn't set a goal tonight, but keep hitting that like button. But we are going to do Be the Booker here before we get out of here. So let's do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to Be the Booker.
Got to treat you guys to Be the Booker here. Got to start the week out on the right note. It is time to Be the Booker. And as always, we will begin on the men's side of things. We are going to book 3 matches tonight. This is match number 1. And we're going to kick things off here with the former AEW World Champion, Blackpool Combat Club's own Jon Moxley. He's the MVP of AEW in 2022. Jon Moxley, one-on-one with the great Khali. Oh my God. That is horrifying. Jon Moxley and the great Khali. You know, somebody sent me a stupid meme of a collie dog that had Khali's head on it. So now every time I say his name, I can't not think of the dog. Like, I don't think I'll ever be able to look at him the same way ever again. I say the great Khali out loud. I just picture the fucking dog. Boy, that match would be awful. Oof. No amount of bleeding that Moxley would do would be able to save that match. Over on the women's side, we begin with the Ace of Spades, or the Queen of Spades. Is it the Queen or the Ace? She's the Queen, okay. Queen of Spades. Shayna Baszler, one half of the WWE Women's Tag Team Champions, soon to be Unified Tag Team Champions because they're wrestling Alba Fire and Isla Dawn on SmackDown this week to unify both sets of women's tag team belts. Shayna Baszler one-on-one with AJ Lee. All right, I can dig that. I can dig that match. AJ Lee going into that match as the underdog. We've seen Shayna in there with smaller opponents before. Candice LeRae, Dakota Kai, and others. I'll give that the bell. And let's wrap this up now with a good old-fashioned tag team match. We begin with Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre, the former Raw Tag Team Champions. I have no recollection of them being the Tag Team Champions. Were it not for this photo, I would never even believe that they were the Tag Team Champions, but evidently they were. So, okay. There you go. Drum roll. Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre will take on Braun Strowman and Nicholas. 9-year-old Nicholas, also former Raw Tag Team Champions. My, how those titles have fallen. Braun Strowman and Nicholas. We went 1 for 3 in Be the Booker tonight. That is not good. That is unacceptable. A based Beerus, God of Seduction, says Logan will win Money in the Bank and frustrate the fans. Maybe it could generate even more support for LA Knight. His age is a part... Wait. Knight's age is a part of the appeal. There is an urgency. No, I disagree. His age has nothing to do with how popular he is. The people just like the guy. He's a throwback to some of the charismatic stars of the past. Just the way he carries himself, the way he cuts a promo. Clearly, you know, he borrows from Austin, he borrows from The Rock, but he's made it his own. He's got charisma for days. I don't think his age has anything to do with it. You and I know that his age may work against him because, you know, once you hit the big 4-0, you know, they kind of look at you differently, especially if you're not one of theirs, and he isn't, right? He's not somebody that they created from scratch and they cultivated and over a period of many, many years. But I also look and I go, you know, the majority of the people on that roster that they're pushing, if you think about it, or they have pushed, Sheamus and Bobby Lashley and Randy Orton and all these guys, they're all 40 and above. So I don't want to hear that, oh, he's 40, and so they can't push him. Bullshit. Bullshit. The majority of the people that they've been pushing for years are north of 40. So I don't want to hear it. That is not an excuse to not do something with somebody who clearly is over in front of the fans. You need to tap into that. You got to take advantage of it and do something meaningful with it. And if it's not winning Money in the Bank, then he should be winning something else. Winning Money in the Bank does not need to be the end-all be-all, but timing. The timing could not be any better for him to go over there to the UK in front of what you know is going to be a loud and very boisterous, very energetic, and very excitable crowd who I am sure are going to be cheering their heads off for this guy. And make a moment. Make a moment at Money in the Bank. And then he's got something to carry around with him for a while. Logan Paul being in that match, man, that does not bode well for him at all. All right, so look, I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. A quiet night, a quick night, because I have an early wake up. But I'm going to be back with you on Wednesday night. Dynamite, the final episode of Dynamite before Forbidden Door. We have a pay-per-view coming up this Sunday. We are less than a week away from Bryan Danielson and Kazuchika Okada for the first time ever, which apparently may not be main eventing the show. Chatter is that Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay will main event the show. That is the rumor going around, but I doubt any final decisions have been made. So we got Dynamite Wednesday night. We got SmackDown on Friday. I will not be here for Collision on Saturday, but I will be for Forbidden Door. So it's going to be a busy week here on YouTube. If you missed episode 813 of the podcast, it was a good one. I might be a little biased when I say that, but it was a good one. So go back and check it out if you're going to be commuting, if you're going to be at the gym, if you're going to be lounging out on the couch with 10 women feeding you grapes. Listen to the podcast. It'll make the grapes taste that much sweeter. I'll see you guys back here live on YouTube Wednesday night for the Dynamite review. Until then, adios.